Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we are moving further down reconnaissance row, if you so to speak, with the North American, the A-5, the Vigilante, and we're really going to be talking about the A-5C primarily, because that is the reconnaissance version of this bird. Now, the interesting thing about this is this was actually a private venture by North American Aviation initially on the development of this aircraft. I'll go up and throw a plan view. Now you could see Greg has donned me with a beautiful bonnet today. What is it, summer? I'm not getting anything with the airplane. My agrestic assistant, but I will go ahead and get this off. And this is going to be interesting. There is no mass to it whatsoever, but he caught it. All right, good job. So, we talked about the whale last week, right? The A3. This aircraft was specifically designed to replace it. Now, why do you say that, Fred? Well, it's a heck of a lot faster. It's still a very big airplane. It was designed to go at Mach 2, so much faster than the A3, and it could fly low, get in quick. Now, the interesting thing about it, and Greg, we're not going to talk about this as a bomber very much, but it had a very interesting bomb bay setup. The best way I can describe it is at supersonic speed, the bomb would depart from the rear of the airplane is the best way, the least crass way. Now, what they would do in the reconnaissance aircraft was this would be avionics and fuel in the bomb bay. They could add more avionics packages and they could put more fuel tanks in there. As I said, because this airplane was so fast, it was a very thirsty bird. It burned a great deal of fuel. It had J79s in it, so a little bit more advanced engine. But it was quite the thirsty aircraft. It started development in 1954. It was a private venture, as I said, by North American Aviation. It was the proposed successor aircraft to the XA-2J. So the Navy went to contract with the airplane in 1956. Its first flight was in 1958. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but in this period was when the services were kind of figuring out how they were going to deliver nuclear weapons during the Cold War, and it became very clear what the Navy was going to be able to do, what the Air Force had with the B-52 and their very large bomber assets. And then you have to remember intercontinental ballistic missiles were happening, so you had a situation where things became clearer. So why is that important? Well, it's important from a standpoint that when the airplane had its first flight in 1958 and it was introduced in 1961, the priorities for the Navy had changed. So although they built 167 of these aircraft, 137 of them were converted to this RA-5C. There were only a handful of these aircraft that ever made it to a nuclear strike mission. I mean, they were literally, as they were coming off the production line, they were already obsolete because the Navy had made the decision that they were not going to do any more large manned bombers off of aircraft carriers. Now, the other reason for this is, I think, and you can see it all the way to the F-18 Hornet today, the Navy, you only have so much real estate on an aircraft carrier flight deck. If you have a bunch of special purpose airplanes, especially big special purpose airplanes, you deprive yourself of being able to do deploy a lot of aircraft on a multi-mission basis. For those of you at home, you can argue with me all you want about the F-18 being a Swiss Army knife airplane. I don't disagree, which is, the jack of all trades, master of none. But on the other side, that's this relentless drive that started all the way back with these airplanes to get the most use out of the real estate that they have on the carrier deck. That was what it came down to. And also, think about maintenance downstairs when they go into the hangar deck. If you've got 5 different types of airplanes that you're repairing and maintaining, and if you're training below deck, not only do you have to have people who understand how to work on these specific airframes and be good at it, plus all the parts. So you could see, if you look at that from that service deck or maintenance deck up to the flight deck, if you can standardize all of your support and supply chain and your training platform, you just get a lot more bang for your buck. I'm not arguing that it's right, but that's the thought process. So this aircraft, in concert with the A3, which it then did not replace, the A3 went on and stayed in the inventory. So now they have 167 of these, but they've also got a bunch of A3s running around. They got a bunch of airplanes that don't meet their initial design mission. They were stuck with them for quite a while. Now the A3, as you know from our video, went on for quite a while, went all the way out to the Gulf War. This aircraft was pretty much done by the early 1970s. So and they went into retirement. But that is how we're going to get to our salute today. And this is another aircraft that I have never met a pilot that flew one of these. As I said, they were all pretty much retired by the early 1970s, and they're in various museums. But this was a trick airplane. This was, Mach 2 aircraft. It held the high altitude record for 13 years. So it was pretty, in its day, it was a very trick airplane. It also served a tremendous purpose, and that was with the Russians. The Russians knew these aircraft were in inventory, and they emulated them a lot with backfire bombers and various aircraft that they built. But these aircraft were still a threat, a low-level threat. And so if we're going to get into a few other little what I call trick things about this airplane. This aircraft was pretty tricked out for its time. But if you were a pilot on one of these, you were a very rare breed. I mean, think about it, 160 some airplanes built, 167, that's not very many pilots, a very narrow, as opposed to the fighter community. So today we are going to salute you with Sioux City Prickly Pear. Oh, these guys are Pure Cane Sugar Mafia. There's Pure Cane Sugar on there. This looks new. Is this for making up for the dinosaur, whatever that thing was you served me last week? This looks new. I'm excited about this. 170 calories. I'll take the high calorie count. We'll get the mandatory. Oop, there was a little bit of a fizz there, so we're good. So if you flew the RA5C or the A-5 version of the Vigilante, or you were involved in the maintainer in the program, whatever you did with it, we salute you. Oh, that's pleasant. Good job, Greg. Now, next week, you'll be serving me crankcase oil out of a 38 Chevy, but second sip. It's got too much sugar in it, but that was a good one, Greg. I'm very happy with that. I'm not going to roll over on my back like I did the last one. So the interesting thing about this was the reconnaissance version weighed 5 more tons than the bomber version because of all the material that was in it. It wasn't as maneuverable, but it was about as fast in level flight. So the airplane, when they put all the reconnaissance material in it, it was pretty tubby. It got heavy. You put more weight, especially the thing that would be for me, and again, this was way past anything I would have ever seen launch off an aircraft carrier. It'd be interesting to see the launch on this airplane with that much more weight. 5 tons more weight's a lot of weight. But So they tubbied it up a little bit by putting, that's a technical term, by the way, tubby. But they increased the weight quite a bit with the material, but they didn't really sacrifice the speed in level flight. Now, the Australians actually looked at this airplane as opposed to the F-111s. The Australians love the F-111. They actually looked at this aircraft. What ended up happening was there was a big lobbying effort for the F-111 in Australia, and despite a recommendation to purchase some of these, they went with the F-111. So this aircraft came very close, and you know, if you look at it, it looks similar to an F-111, you know, in its profile, performance pretty darn close. But it would have been interesting to see how much longer lifespan the aircraft had had if it ended up in the Australian Air Force, but it wasn't to be. The other thing that is really intriguing about the airplane is, what was this, Greg? This was one of the first fly-by-wire aircraft. So think about that. When we make a big deal about the F-16 being a fly-by-wire airplane, this airplane came into the fleet in 1961. It had a fly-by-wire system in it, and it had a hydraulic system backup. So when I talk about that the airplane was pretty tricked out, it was. But unfortunately, like a lot of Cold War aircraft, we were burning through types of airplanes very quickly. So it was clear, because of the amount of deck space that this airplane carried, the Navy made a decision between the A-3 and this aircraft, and the A-3 won the day, although ultimately the A-3 went into history. Now, you can argue with me on this. I think what doomed this airplane was the fact that and this is one that drivers, operators, if you want to give me feedback down in the comments section, this is my opinion, and you feel free to argue with me. But I think the reason that it was retired earlier was because it couldn't tank. It wasn't a good tanker, and the Navy needed a tanker aircraft, and the A-3 could fulfill a tanker role. So again, multi-mission. If it's multi-mission, it's going to have more lifespan. So at the late 60s, early 70s, these all went into museums, and they are completely retired, and they have gone into history. Now, if you want to show your support for North American aviation, you can get this shirt, Heave Ho. Heave Ho, the livery on this aircraft is actually an aircraft that operated as a hack out of England and would actually go for the pilots and pick up their grog. I'll leave it at that. Their spirits. And the interesting thing, a Fred fun fact. Do you know why the question mark on the tail? The question mark on the tail is it was never assigned to a pilot, so anybody could fly it. So that was the question mark. Fred fun fact for the day. But if you want to go and go to our site and click on this, we will be happy. Jason will run down to the store, and whether you're a Texan or not, he will send you a shirt, and you will be able to show your North American aviation pride. Now, if you came across us on YouTube and you like what we do, all we do is one-take military aircraft videos. If you like that kind of stuff and the bare bones stuff, we don't do a lot of singing and dancing on this, although we have some surprises coming up in a couple of episodes. Go ahead and give us a like. Forward us to your friends. If you have friends who like no-frills aviation videos, we're happy to do that. The one thing about this, like on Facebook, give us a like and a comment. We love comments. So get involved in the community that we have here. We're up about like 4,000 subscribers. That's pretty scary. We have a little like cabal of people that like short form aviation videos. If you can donate a few shekels, there is a donation link on this page. We would love to be able to get a few bucks from you, because that's how we make all this stuff happen and keep these birds flying. We appreciate that. And lastly, if you're teaching at home, there's an education link that you can download the teacher's guides. There's all kinds of fun things to do with the kids, especially over the summer. And we would love for you to download those education links. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.